What's going on, guys? This is Lior and welcome back to my channel. Now, what I thought I would do in this video is give you guys the story of what happened to me when I tried to first buy my first investment property, right? Because basically everyone in my circle, when I first had that crazy idea, tried to essentially stop me, right? They told me of all the risks, all the things that could go wrong. And my parents had a very specific path that they told me I had to follow. And I know a lot of you guys today watching this video, I know a lot of you guys have other opinions and other people telling you what is the right path or what you should be doing. So I thought I'd kind of give you guys my story about how that played out and just how bad and just how crazy things have turned around if I had followed my parents' advice instead of actually going down the path that I'd chosen for myself. So if you're thinking about whether it's buying real estate, starting a business, a side hustle, whatever it is, if you've got any fear, check the story out and hopefully it'll be relevant to you. What's going on, guys? This is Lior and welcome to my channel. Now, before I actually get into the content, guys, first of all, if this is your first time on my channel, guys, first of all, welcome. And second of all, make sure you subscribe to the channel, right? Keeps me motivated to keep doing these videos so I can continue to crunch out content for you guys and inspire the next kind of wave of entrepreneurs, real estate investors, whatever it is, right? So make sure you subscribe and I will definitely keep putting more content out. So if you guys don't really know my story, haven't watched any of my other videos, basically, when I was going through college, my parents had a very dead set path for me, right? It was to be a doctor, right? So I was a pre-med student in college, pretty good one if I do say so myself, right? I got really good grades. Had a pretty solid, MCAT score, which is the test you need to apply to med school. But what I decided to do kind of randomly was take a gap year, right, before I applied to med school. I ended up taking a job in consulting, and that was the time I kind of started learning about investing, right? And it took, at first I thought about stocks, but I kind of realized I didn't want to do stocks. So I jumped into thinking about real estate investing. And of course, as soon as I started talking about it to my parents, my friends, even my girlfriend at the time, everyone thought I was insane, right? Just like, crazy, what are you doing? That makes no sense. You've got the path set for you. This is your path. Like, it just doesn't make sense. It was very discouraging, right? It really was very discouraging. But I kind of just thought, what do I have to lose? Might as well kind of try a few things. I'm going to med school anyway. Like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? So after a lot of research, networking, all that fun jazz that I've talked about in other videos, I ended up pulling the trigger on my first investment property. Basically bought an owner-occupied multifamily, a three-family, where I lived in one unit and rented out the other 2 units. Now, what's crazy was during that time, simultaneously, I was also getting ready to submit my med school apps, right? Because med school apps take forever. You got to do them like a year in advance. So I remember literally starting to get things together. I was starting to write my essay of why I wanted to be a doctor. And here's the thing, right? Like, I remember very concretely, like, I wasn't that passionate about it, right? Like, from a young age, I was basically told you have to do this if you want any chance at achieving financial success, right? Because doctors, of course, have very steady jobs, very steady incomes, and that was always beaten into my brain relentlessly. So that was kind of the path I thought I was destined for, right? But what I realized was I didn't love, like, that wasn't what I loved, right? I didn't want to do it. And it was funny, after I closed on my property, as I was writing my med school essay, I actually wrote about like starting a business after med school, right? It was really funny, like, they ask you like, why you want to become a doctor, what's your story and all that. And I wrote that, and then I was like, yeah, but by the way, after a couple of years too, I'm probably going to want to end up going to the business world using my med school experience or my doctor expertise, whatever it was, right? So I already kind of had that bug forming in me. And that's when I started to realize, like, hey, this might not be the path. I will say, sitting from my chair today, right? Like, that was 1,000,000% the best decision I've ever made. And I don't think I'll ever make as good of a decision again, right? Because, first of all, I love what I do, right? I love real estate. I'm a broker. I'm an investor. I love what I do. It's just like, it's exciting and gets me up in the morning. I can crunch all day and night for this, and I don't even care, right? Like, I enjoyed it, right? So that's number one, is I have the passion for it, right? I knew I wasn't going to be passionate about being a doctor. It just was never really something I like wanted to do. It was my financial solution, right? But probably the other component too is, you know, it was funny as I was having dinner with my parents the other week. I kind of was starting to do some mental math because we were talking about this, and it's funny because if I had listened to my parents at that time, it would have actually cost me a insane amount of money, like insane amount of money, right? Because here's the deal. I actually have friends from college that are graduating med school today, right? Like this year, next year. And, you know, if you go to med school, think about this, right? You obviously don't really have an income. You haven't had an income the last 4-5 years, whatever it was, right? You are taking on an insane amount of debt, right? Most med schools cost like 60-70 grand a year. For easy numbers, let's say it costs $250,000 for an education, right? So $250,000 right there. So you're literally generating no income and taking on $250,000 of debt, right? So if I went to med school, I would have literally been a negative $250,000 net worth today graduating. Now, as opposed to everything I've done, you know, which obviously I've worked insanely hard for and have been very fortunate and blessed to get. But, you know, we've had great success in real estate, both investing and as a broker. And I've been able to generate quite a bit, right? I mean, when I add everything up, it adds up to right about $1 million. So, you know, between the upside of where I'm at today versus the downside if I was to graduate today as a med school graduate, it's literally a swing of almost $1.25 million. Absolutely insane. When I first thought about that, I actually laughed out loud as I was telling my parents about that, right? Because they were still giving me digs about not being a doctor. Both from like a passion perspective, right? Like that's not what I wanted to do. That's not what I was like, you know, that's not what I really wanted to wake up for. As well as just on a major scale, a financial perspective, right? That would have been such a horrible decision to go on. And I'm so thankful I didn't go on that. And I'll say one other thing too. I remember actually I have this distinct memory where I joined, after I bought my first property, I joined a masterclass, right? I paid for a masterclass for this real estate investor that I still have a ton of respect for. One of the best, I think one of the smartest guys out there. Bought his course. And when I bought his course, it actually gave me access for like a 15-minute conversation with him. And I didn't ask him a single thing about real estate investing. I literally asked him like, hey, like, I'm not gonna mention his name, but I was like, hey man, like, look, I mean, I just bought my first property. I kind of like this, but I also have to apply for med school, which I don't really want to do. What's your advice, right? Because my parents want me to do this. Everyone tells me I should do this, but I don't really want to. And he just super simply, super elegantly basically just said, hey, you can't live other people's lives, right? You can't live other people's lives. You do whatever you think is best for you. It's easier, it's definitely easier said than done, right? I mean, I know we read on Instagram all these motivational quotes and all that shit, but I took that advice to heart, right? Because I just knew that wasn't the right path, right? And, you know, so the kind of takeaway for you guys is anyone that's watching this video, right? If you thought about going into a business, if you thought about investing in real estate, whatever it is, if you thought about starting some sort of side hustle, right? Doesn't matter what it is. The point is everyone's going to be a naysayer at first, right? And they actually will probably be a naysayer in moving forward too. Like that might just never change. And I've accepted that. And I think you need to accept that as well. But the point is, would you rather have a bunch of naysayers or be a naysayer for yourself? And that's kind of ultimately the decision you got to make. That's the decision I made. I know that's the decision every single successful person I know has made, right? Is do you want to live the life of other people that other people expect of you and other people want for you? Or is it something that you want to live for yourself, right? And not to get like super deep and all that, but you know, it was just kind of going through this conversation with my parents really struck a chord with me. You know, it just made me really rethink about everything I've done so far, the path I've chosen. I know that was kind of a long story, but you know, hopefully if you are sitting at a crossroads today, or maybe you're not even a crossroads, right? Maybe you already started going to that venture, stick to the path that you think is right for you. I think at the end of the day, everyone knows what they're really good at. Everyone knows what they're passionate about. And if you choose that path, I think it's gonna carry you forward, right? It's gonna carry you forward. Obviously with a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, no question about it, right? But choose the right path for yourself, right? Don't let others make that judgment call, because it doesn't make sense, right? Like, it doesn't make sense for other people to make the judgment call for yourself, right? So hopefully that makes sense, guys. If you guys obviously have any questions, thoughts, just make sure to shoot them below.